Okay, so we are holding in MISHNAS CHASIDIM, Perek Hey from Oros Hataamim. We are dealing with Yeridas HaKeser. Up until now, the Or HaKeser has been up within the Peh of Adam Kadmon. Now, the Or HaKeser is coming back down from the Peh of Adam Kadmon, and therefore, the Oros are going to change their pattern. And what the Ari HaKadosh explains is that the pattern of the Oros now is going to be that they are nostalgic. They all go up. These Oros are all going up. They're all going upwards, and we're going to see the pattern that's created for them. So here we go. Let's look inside. Perek Hey, Mishnah Aleph. Achar kach b'soid hey achrei nashal shem. So afterwards, now we're at the side of the Hey of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name, and which the last Hey is also an inyan of Siluk. And what's going on here is that the Or is going to be pushed back up. Not the Or HaKeser. We're talking about all of these Oros are going to start going back up. And how do they start going back up? Because there's the Giloy of Or HaKeser. The Or HaKeser comes back down. That's what's going to bring like a magnetic force that the rest of the Oros are going to go back up. So, Hayachoizer Mstalek Or Kameikain, Bederech Ze Nichnas, Bederech Nichnas V'yetzi. In the same way as Nichnas V'yetzi, or Mati V'le Mati. Ketzad, how is it so? Begomar Knisasam. So, after we explained how the Oros all enter into their places in Malchus, especially the Dalid enters into Malchus, I'll say the Ha'amar, like the Seder like we mentioned above. Haya Or HaKeser B'mkeirai. So the Or HaKeser was still in its makar. But the Ata, and now Yorad B'chalkoi. So now the Or HaKeser comes down into the Kli HaKeser. V'alu Chachma Bina. So then Chachma and Bina see the Or HaKeser and they want to go up to be with the Or HaKeser. V'chein Chesed. Chesed is also being driven up. Chesed is close enough. It's not farther than 3 spheres away. So it's drawn up. And it's drawn up not all the way to the Kli HaKeser like Chachma and Bina, but it's drawn up to Bina. So the Or HaChesed is drawn up to the Sphira, the Kli of Bina. And now because Chesed is drawn up, V'yorad Gvura. Gvura can't exist anymore within the Kli HaChesed, since Chesed has gone up. So therefore Gvura goes down to its place. And since Gevura goes down to its place, V'ola Tiferes. Tiferes ends up going up. Tiferes sees that there's a higher light. It sees that there's a higher light, which is the light of Gevura, right on top of it, and it wants to be a part of that. So it goes and it joins the Or of Gevura. And since the Or Tiferes leaves its place and goes up to the sphere of Gevura, V'yorad Netzach. So because of that, Netzach, that was with the sphere of Tiferes, can't be with Tiferes anymore and has to go down to its place. So therefore, again, V'yorad Netzach. Netzach goes to its place. V'ala Hoid. And since Netzach goes to its place, Hoid sees the light of Netzach. And because Hoid sees the light of Netzach, V'ala Hoid, Hoid goes up to the sphere of Netzach. And since Hoid goes up to the sphere of Netzach, you could guess what happens. V'yorad Yesod. Yesod can't exist anymore with the sphere of Hoid, and it goes to its place. So the sphere of Yesod goes to its place. And now that the sphere of Yesod goes to its place, who sees the Or of the Darga of Yesod? Malchus. So that's why we say now, V'ola Malchus. The Or of Malchus goes up to the sphere of Yesod. And now Mishnah Beis. Achar Ola Keser. So then once again, Loi Mati. The Keser is Loi Mati. The Or HaKeser goes up to its makor. The Or HaKeser goes up to its makor. And then what happens as a result of that? So you can guess. V'yor Chachma Bina. Chachma Bina goes back to their place. V'chein Chesed. Chesed goes back to the sphere of Chesed. And since Chesed goes back to the sphere of Chesed, V'ola Gvura. Gvura sees now the Or of Chesed and jumps back up to the Kli of Chesed to be with Chesed. And since that happens, V'yorad Tiferes. Tiferes can't be with Gevura. Tiferes can't be with Gevura. So therefore, and why can't it be with Gevura? Because Gevura already went up. So therefore, V'yorad Tiferes. Tiferes goes back to its place. And since Tiferes goes back to its place, V'ala Netzach, Netzach sees that light and it wants to be with Tiferes. And since Netzach leaves its place, Hoid cannot be with the sphere of Netzach. And therefore, V'yorad Hoid. Hoid goes back down to its own place. And since Hoid goes back to its own place, you can guess what happens. Since Hoid goes back to its own place, what happens? V'alu Yisoid u'malchus shnehem leHoid. So Yisoid and Malchus all go up, both go up to Yisoid and Malchus both go up to the Darga of Hoid. They were already by Yisoid, and now that they see that there's a light, by Hoid, so they go up to Hoid. So Hoid has 3 spheres by it. So Acher Kach Yorad Keser, and then the Ora Keser comes back down, and that is called Mati Bekeser. And then, therefore, hold on, let me just, so, okay. Acher Kach Yorad Keser. So now it is what? It is Mati Bekeser. When the Ora Keser comes to Keser, we call it Mati Bekeser. And since it's Mati Bekeser, V'alu Chachmei Bina, so then Chachmei Bina want to be with the light of Keser, so then they are nostalgic from their spheres, and they go to be with Keser. And then you can guess what happens after that.
They travel together because they're trained using
Delay Misparshin, yeah.
They get to travel together.
Yeah.
So that's what's unique about because of the guard. That's what you said.
Yeah. Yeah. So V'chein Chesed, and Chesed, which Chesed is nearby. So Chesed wants to be up there too. So Chesed goes up, not to the Ora Keser, but nearby. It goes one darga up to the Or of Bina, to the Kli of Bina. So V'chein Chesed. Chesed goes up as well. Chesed goes to the Kli of Bina. And therefore, since Chesed leaves its place, Gevura cannot exist with Chesed. V'yard Gevura l'mkaimai. So Gevura has to drop and go back to its place, to the Kli of Gevura. V'ala Tiferes. And now that Gevura drops back to its own place, what happens is, you know what's going to happen. Tiferes will jump up to the Kli of Gevura, because Tiferes now can see the light of Gevura, so it's going to jump up there. And since the light of Tiferes jumps up to the Kli of Gevura, you know what's going to happen next. V'yard Netzach. Netzach that was previously existing with Tiferes, it can't be there anymore because the Or of Tiferes jumped up. So Netzach has to pull back down. And the Or of Netzach goes to the Kli of Netzach. And since that happens, who sees that light? The 3 spheres that are beneath it. V'alu Hoid, Yisoid, U'Malchus, Shlashtam L'Netzach. So now Hoid, Yisoid, and Malchus, that were all by Hoid, they all see the Or of Netzach, and they want to be with Netzach. And so they all jump up another darga up. So the MISHNAS CHASIDIM stops here, and he says that you could basically conceptualize the rest of what's going on here, and you could follow the pattern, and he doesn't list the end of the pattern, but it's pretty much so the same, and that the Oros are going higher and higher, because up above, the Ora Keser is Mati V'le Mati, being drawn down and being nostalgic. And every time it's drawn down and becomes nostalgic, what ends up happening is that the lower spheres want to cling higher and higher, and they go higher and higher. So that's what he's going to say now. He says, and in this way, that's how the Oros go in and out. And Yatsu v'alu l'tferes. So all of the Oros, which is Netzach, Hoid, Yisoid, and Malchus, all go up to Tiferes. Yatsu v'alu l'tiferes. They all go to the darga of Tiferes. Omi Tiferes l'gvura. And all of the Oros then including Tiferes, go to Gvura. And then Umigvura Lahaid, and all the Oros, Umigvura Liyasaid, all of the Oros, including the Or of Gvura, then jump up to Chesed, Umechesed Lebina, and then from there all of the Oros, including the Or Chesed, goes to Bina, Umibina LeChachma, and all of the Oros, including the Or Bina, then are being drawn up to Chachma, Omechachma LeKeser, and from Chachma all of the Oros, including the Or Chachma, is drawn to Keser, Omekesser LeSharsham, and from Keser to the Sharash of the Peh of Adam Kadmon. Okay, now that we said that, I think it's fitting just to mention a small point here, not a small point, a big point. A big point which is very hard to find, but you wonder how did what is the tachlis from the Oros of Mati V'Lo Mati? This is something that we spoke about in the previous shir, and the idea behind this is as follows: is that there is a little bit of a machlekes here about how the Oros of Mati V'Lo Mati function. Basically, as it comes out, there's a machlekes between Rabbi Yehuda Petaya, Zechrona Levracha, and between the Baal Yafa Shah, Reb Shlomo HaKohen. They both wrote Pirushim on Eitz Chaim. Basically, what they say is as follows. Rabbi Yehuda Petaya asked the Shaila. He said, since by Bnei Yisrael there is a lot of things going on in the world, there's a lot of mitzvahs, but a lot of chatoyim. The Arizal said, "Rega ba'apay chayim b'rtzoynai, ki rega ba'apay chayim b'rtzoynai." In a moment is Hashem's wrath, and for eternity is His will. And the Ari HaKodesh said that goes on the Kalim and the Oros of Mati V'Lo Mati, of the Peh of Adam Kadmon. The Oros HaPeh is what we're dealing with now. The Oros that are Yotzi from the Peh of Adam Kadmon, which is all of what we were talking about now. We first described the Oros coming out of the Peh of Adam Kadmon, and then we described the Oros going back within the Peh of Adam Kadmon. But the Ari HaKodesh says about that this is Kirega Ba'apay Chaim B'Rtzoynai, that the Oros are flashing back and forth, and that hints to HaKadosh Baruch Hu's willingness in dealing with Bnei Yisrael. So this is a little bit of a machlekes though. Rabbi Yehuda Petaya explained that the Oros, as they're coming down and going back up, they both symbolize Hashem's interaction with Bnei Yisrael. In other words, when the Oros are drawn down, they could symbolize how Bnei Yisrael is doing. And when the Oros are being drawn back up, it can symbolize how Bnei Yisrael is doing. And Rabbi Yehuda Petaya gives a few keys about understanding how HaKadosh Baruch Hu would interact with the world. When the Ur is being nostalgic, if the Ur is being nostalgic for a long time, then it would show that there's a little bit of wrath. There's a little bit of there's a little bit of Idan Rischa, as they call it, a little bit of a time of wrath. Or if there's akava, if the Ur stays at one place for a long time, then that's also a sign of negativity. But Rabbi Yehuda Petaya also says that the Oros can show the same pattern, but still be l'ratzain. Still be l'ratzain. So, according to Rabbi Yehuda Petaya, you can't really know the Kavana Elyona when it comes down to Mati V'Lo Mati in the Oros of the Peh of Adam Kadmon. You can't really know. However, the Baal Yafa Shah, he says that as the Oros are coming out of the Peh of Adam Kadmon, that's all will. That's all Ratzain. That's all good. Even if the Or is not Mati B'Keser, the next step will be Mati B'Keser. Or even if, one step, there's a little bit of Siluk. As long as the Or is being drawn down, that's all Ratzain Hashem. That's all Ratzain Hashem. However, the Oros that we just described now, as the Oros are going back within the Peh of Adam Kadmon, that is a sign of punishment. And we spoke about a very yesodistic thing in our last shir. We mentioned the idea that the Ari HaKadosh says that Im avonos tishmarka Hashem miyamid, that if HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes heed of all our averos, we would never be able to endure. We would never be able to endure. The Ari HaKadosh explains, Im avonos tishmarka. Ka is Yud K. Yud K is Chachma and Bina. And what the Ari HaKadosh said is that averos are not pegim Abba and Ima, Chachma and Bina. Averos are only pegim Vak. They're only pegim Zer Anpin and Malchus. So if you do averos, they're going to make a pagam in the Shechina and Zer Anpin. They're not going to make a pagam in the mechanisms that give energy to the whole world. They're not going to give a pagam to the Shayrashim. The Shayrashim is Gar, Keser Chachma Bina Das, right? So your Chatoyim are not pagam the Gar. They're not pagam a Chachma Bina. But they are pagam Vavhe of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name. So that's why it says, Im avonos tishmarka Hashem miyamid, right? If averos could reach Yud K, then the whole world would be destroyed. So that being the case, why are we mentioning by the Oros Hapeh of Adam Kadmon, which is way, way, way above that? Way, way, way above that. How are averos pegim? How do averos affect Adam Kadmon? The Oros Hapeh of Adam Kadmon, one of the highest dargas in Seder Hishtalshalos. And the truth of the matter is that Reb Yehuda Pataya explains that the idea behind this is as follows. When a shefa, when a hashpa is nimshich lamata, so you can't take away the source of that hashpa. You can't take away the source of that hashpa, the gar, the gimel rishonos. You can't take away the hashpa from Chachma and Bina. You could be pegam Zer Anpin or pegam Malchus, which when a person is pegam Zer Anpin goes from being 10 spheros to being 6 spheros, Vav spheros. And when you're pegam Malchus goes from being 10 spheros to being 1 sphera, which is Keser of Malchus. So that you can all do. That is the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu made the Bria, and that's what we can hurt by our deeds. But we can't affect the mucker of the hashpah. Once the hashpah is already sent, you can't take that hashpah away. Now, if the hashpah should be sent bichlal, that's a different story. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu can take away the hashpah all the way above from the darga of Adam Kadmon, obviously, because everything comes from him. So if HaKadosh Baruch Hu feels that, you know what, no hashpah, chas v'sholim, no hashpah, no bracha. So what's going to happen is, all the way from dargas within Adam Kadmon, there's going to be a lack. There's going to be a lack of hashpah, even from that area. And that's why we're talking about by mati v'lei mati, that the siluk of the oros back within the peh of Adam Kadmon, that is a sign of din, even though it's on such a high darga. All right. So now that we finished that idea, let's go on and finish this piece. And we're holding Mishnah Gimel. We're holding Mishnah Gimel in Perek Hey. So here we go. Va yedei zeh. Hold on a moment. Va yedei zeh nesave kli ha'echad. And through this interaction that we explained up above, up until now, that's how this one kli, this first kli, was actually formed. And this is the kli of the peh of Adam Kadmon, right? Where all the oros are drawn, the oros pinimim and the oros makifim are drawn into one. And what's added onto it now is that they now have congealed and become one kli. So That's what he's saying here. Through this, that's how this one kli is formed. And in this one kli, all the chalakim of this kli became congealed and revealed. That even the dalid of the hay that we spoke about up until now becomes into 4 alfin. The dalid of the hay that we mentioned by the sphera of bina, we mentioned that bina is due. Bina has that hay, the dal and the vav. We mentioned that the vav is given to zer anpin, and the dalid is given to malchus. And by each step, the vav and the dalid becomes more revealed, just like by the darga of the oznayim da Adam Kadmon, by the darga of the ears of Adam Kadmon, what we explained in many shiurim, that darga, you had the hay, and the hay was the 10 spheres, right? But then this hay became congealed more because it brought down these uris of the oznayim to the uris achotem, meaning the uris were becoming more identified as one, right? And that was the vav. And the vav, we said the vav became more revealed, and the vav is that it became into 6 alfin. 6 alfin for each nostril. 6 alfin for each nostril, as we explained at length in previous shiurim. And now, but the dalid of the hay, because hay is a dalid and a vav. So the dalid of the hay, by this darga of malchus, becomes revealed that it is a dalid. And how does it become revealed that it is a dalid? Because the dalid itself becomes 4 alfin. Now, how does this come about? And the answer is, you have to understand it really as a tzir sichli, intellectual picture here. Because by these dargas, what the Ari HaKadosh is saying really is that these levels correspond to the letter Hey. All of the iris of Seder Shalshalos are stemming from the, ultimately, Shem Sag, which is Hey, which are called the iris or Znaim Da'ak. But this Hey becomes developed by the Chotem and then becomes one in the Peh. That's why we mentioned the ears, the nose, the holes in a person's body become more closer and drawn into one, which is the Peh. But by each of these dargas, the representative letter of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name becomes more revealed by every step. So conceptually speaking, by the darga of Chotem, the Vav is Nisgala more, and the Vav becomes not just Vav, but as Shisha Alfin. And here at this level, the Dalid becomes more revealed, meaning we have here a congealing of the darga of Peh. So if you're going to congeal the darga of Peh, what are you going to do? You're going to make sure that the Dalid is not Dal, but Dalid Alfin. Dalid Alfin. So that's the tzir sichli of the madrega that we're holding now. That's the tzir sichli. So now let's go into that now. It says Sha'af Adalas Shalahei Nachalegas Labra Alfin. The dal of the hay was broken up into 4 alfin. And we're going to see, the Ari HaKadosh points out to us, luckily, that there's a way to show a pattern with these 4 aleph and how they translate to the Sheirashim of Chotem and Oznayim. How they translate into the Chotem and the Oznayim. So here, let's read it inside. Mishnah Dalid. The Arba Alfin Elu Shnayim Mitzuras Yud Vav Yud. And from these 4 alfin, 2 of them have the tzir of Yud Vav Yud. There's different ways to write an aleph. You can write an aleph Yud Vav Dalid, or you can write an aleph Yud Vav Yud. So 2 of them have the tzir Yud Vav Yud. 2 of them have the tzir of Yud Vav Yud, right? V'roimzim, and they hint la'oris ha'imdim li'yamin peh. They hint to the oris, which the oris is a very high darga, which we consider the yamin peh. And I want you to go back, think conceptually of what we spoke about before, about the idea of the oznayim. We said there's ozen yamin, ozen smell, And we asked the big Shiloh, why are we talking about Ozen Yamin, Ozen Small, Ozen Yamin, Ozen? And we mentioned that in order to say that there's a darga that's higher than another darga, you call one Yamin and you call the other Small. Al Deros, I hear the same thing, right? You have the Ores that are Liyamin Apeh, right? And that is the Yud Vav Yud. That is the Yud Vav Yud. And what are they? That would be the Or Pnimi and the Or Makif. The Or Pnimi and the Or Makif. One Aleph stands for the Or Pnimi. The other Aleph stands for the Or Makif. And then Ushtayim B'tzuras Yud Vav Dalis. And you have two which have the tzir of Yud Vav Dalid. Right? Haremzim Kezeh, like the Baal Mishas says. Haremzim L'Chatzenis Akli Upnimi Yusoi. And those represent the Chatzonius Akli and the Pnimius Akli. So if we divide the Peh in Yamin and Small, just like we did by the Darga of Chotem and Oznayim, so there is meaning. There's a higher Darga and a lower Darga. The Erdes are Liyamin. The Kalim, the Pnimius Akli, Chatzonius Akli, that is L'Smol Apeh, right? And fine. Now, before we go further, I want to point out to you how these dargas are traceable. And if you're going to take a look into this, into the picture that we post about this, you're going to see how the Yud Vav Yud, right, represents the Oros. And how do they represent the Oros? So let's take, for example, the Or Makif. The Or Makif, the Yud of the Aleph comes from the Oros of the Ozen. The Vav comes from the Chotem Yamin, the right nostril. And the other Yud stems from the Yud Oros that come from the Ozen Smol of Adam Kadmon. That's the representative. And for the other Aleph, it's the same thing. The Yud represents the Yud Spheres of Ozen Yamin. The Vav represents the Chotem again. And the Yud, the other Yud, the last Yud on the bottom of the Vav, represents Ozen Smol. So the Yud Vav Yud is made in the same way. But they represent the Oros that have been drawn from the Ozen and from the Chotem. That's what they represent. And then you have the Yud Vav Dalid. The Yud Vav Dalid is similar. The Yud Vav Dalid stands by the left side of the mouth. And we don't mean left side, we mean the lower darga. So it means the lower darga of the mouth. And what do we mean? We mean Pnimius Akli, Chutzenius Akli. Right? That's the conceptualization here. Pnimius Akli, Chutzenius Akli. And how does this work out? How do we see within the tzir of Aleph Pnimius Akli and Chutzenius Akli? Because the Yud stems from the Yud spheres that come from Ozen Yamin, right? The right side of the ear of Adam Kadmon. And then the Vav and the Dalid represent the Hay that came from the Chotem of Adam Kadmon. And Al Derech Zeh, the same thing has to do with the Chatzonius Akli, that you have the Vav and the Dalid also stemming from the Chotem, the left side of the Chotem, and then you have the Yud, which the Yud stands for the 10 spheres that come from the Ozen Smol. So that's how you see within the Tziyurim of Aleph, the Yud Vav Yud, which is one seer. There are two of them. They represent the Oros which come by the Peh of Adam Kadmon, stemming from the Chotem and the Ozen Da'ak. And then you also have the Yud Vav Dalid, and they represent Chatzonius Akli, Upnimius Akli. And as we put up the picture, you will see, if you go in the chat room also, you'll see the picture there. That gives you a clear, instant image. You know, it's always good to have an image, but we're going to put it up also that you should know. And so now that we have that down, let's continue. The Hoylech, we're in the middle of We're in the middle of Mishnah Dalet. So the Oros Hapeh, they go this Or is drawn all the way down to the Tabur the Adam Kadmain, to the belly button area, Tiferes the Adam Kadmain. In other words, each of these lights, Oros HaOzen, are drawn to a certain area. Oros HaChotem are drawn to the Chaza, right, the chest area of Adam Kadmain. But the Oros Hapeh are drawn all the way to the belly button area, to Tiferes the Adam Kadmain. So that's what he's saying here. This Or goes to half of Tiferes of Adam Kadmain. V'sham Kala, and at that point, that's where the Oros Hapeh end. That's where the Oros Hapeh end, right? And by the way, don't take this lightly, because this is where these Oros that we're mentioning from Ozen, Chotem, and Peh comprise all of Seder Hishtalshalos. The rest of Adam Kadmain is a different story, but Oros, Ozen, Chotem, and Peh comprise all of Seder Hishtalshalos. So now, the Ikar Or he lepnei Adam Kadmain. The Ikar Or is nispashet from the face of Adam Kadmain, from the ears, the nose, and the mouth of Adam Kadmain, and later on from the eyes of Adam Kadmain and the metzach and the forehead, which we're going to get to soon. But the ha'ara of these oros that are drawn, that are emanating from the face of Adam Kadmain, their ha'ara lightens up all of existence, all of Adam Kadmain entirely, right? The ha'oros, right? And that's the same thing by all the achaf, the Oros, Ozen, Chotem, and Peh. Their ha'ara is b'pnei Adam Kadmain, but their ha'ara is nispashet all throughout the Adam Kadmain. And by the way, you could take a moment here and think about this, that when it comes down to describing these Oros, you need to understand them in a sense as 3D. You don't think of them as just like a flat line. They're all, think of it like, the tzir, like they explain, like an onion. Like an onion has a whole ball to it. So everything that you see in one side is on the other side and all the way through. So all of these Oros are nispashet in a similar way. But when it comes to Oros, Ozen, Chotem, and Peh, they're nispashet from one side. They're nispashet from one side, but nevertheless they envelope the whole of existence all throughout. Okay, that's a big key here. Don't forget that. Now, the Oros, this Or, shadarka nispashet ustalik, they have the derech to be nispashet and nistalik. The hakli, and also the kli that we described, shadarka liyishapech panim v'achor, that is the derech to flip, to give, and then to be makabel. To give and be makabel. That is what we call akudim. Akudim, right? And the first kli, the first real kli in Seder Hishtalshalos. And Mishnah Hey, Ume Or Ozen Yamin Shebepeh, and from the Or Ozen Yamin, Shebepeh, which is in the Peh of Adam Kadmain. Nasa Havel Lechi Ha'elyon, that formulates the higher darga of Havel. In other words, let me take a moment to explain you this before we go further. Take, for example, the mouth. Divide the mouth into 4. How would you do that? For example, make a circle, right? If you draw a circle, if you make one line down and the other line across, that line down and across would divide the circle into 4 parts, right? So look at that as the mouth, right? And what you would do is you'd look at the right side. The right side is Havel Lechi Elyon, the voice, right, which is higher, which is on the top of the mouth, the top side of the mouth, of the right side, and Havel Lechi Tachton, and the voice that comes out of the bottom right side of the mouth, right? Those are the 2 parts of Havel, right? Havel Lechi Elyon, Havel Lechi Tachton, right? And then if you take the left side, the lower darga, that would be Dibur Elyon and Dibur Tachton. Dibur Elyon, dibur tachton. And why do we break it up like that? Because we explained before to you that in the side of Aleph, you have Oros and you have Kalim. So when it comes down to speaking, you have Kurl and you have Dibur. You have Kurl and Dibur. The Kurl and Dibur are on two different dargas. The darga of Kurl is on a higher darga than Dibur. Dibur is on a lower darga, right? Kurl is on a higher darga. Kurl is more ruchni. And so therefore, we look at it as Hevel on the right side, the Havalim on the right side, Hevel Echi Elyon, the top of the mouth, Hevel Echi Tachta in the bottom of the mouth. And by Dibur, we look at it as a lower darga. That's why we call it the left side. And we have Dibur Lechi Elyon and Dibur Lechi Tachtain. And that's the key to understand this. That's the key to understand this piece here. And so let's read it inside. From the that comes from the yamin of the oz and the adam kadmain, that formulates Hevel Lechi Elyon, the voice that comes out the top of the right side of the mouth, the darga of the right side of the mouth, meaning the oros, right? The or makif, and that's the or makif too, right? Meaning that represents the or makif. We already described the right side of the oz and the adam kadmain, how it looks by the peh. Now we're going to describe the right side of the chotem, how it looks by the peh. And how that is, that's what he's going to say now. That formulates the voice that comes out of the lower right side of the mouth, which in our mashal, that was the Yud Vav Yud, the second Yud Vav Yud, right? Because there's two olives. Yud Vav Yud, Yud Vav Yud. So those are the Oros. Hevel Lechi Elyon, Hevel Lechi Tachton, right? The Or Pnimi, and that's the Or Pnimi. That's the lower darga of light called the Or Pnimi. And from the Or, that is, from the Oz and Smell that came down into the Peh, what does it look like now? How is it conceptualized now, right? Nasa Dibur HaElyon. That formulates Dibur Elyon. Dibur Elyon, a higher form of Dibur. A higher form of Dibur. We're going to talk about this in a moment more. V'chetzenius HaKli. And the chetzenius of the Kli. The chetzenius of the Kli is a higher darga. The chetzenius of the Kli is a higher darga. Right? Ume'or nekev smel shel chotem. And then once again, the nekev of the left nostril, how does that look by the peh? How do we conceptualize that in the peh? That that makes dibur tachton a lower type of dibur and the pnimius of the kli. So interestingly enough, we spoke about kurl and dibur. Kurl is on a higher darga, dibur is a lower darga. We call that yamin and smel apeh, the right and left sides of the mouth. And we mentioned that the kalim are on a lower darga. So, interestingly enough, a very big mikubal, Rebbe Eliyahu Mani, he asked the Shaila, how can you tell me that when it comes down to dibur, that the actual dibur, the actual kliya dibur, is on a lower darga? How could it be on a lower darga? If you take a look at Shar Ruach HaKodesh, it explains over there that dibur, that when you use your dibur, you create malachim, you bring down neshamas. The Ari HaKadosh says, through dibur. Why is it that if dibur is so little, why does the Ari HaKadosh say that it's dibur and not kol, that sort of draws out angels and draws out neshamas? Why is that? If dibur is so low. So Rabbi Eliyahu says a marvelous thing. He says, because when it comes down to his galus, revelation of higher beings like malachim and neshamas, dibur, which is more physical, brings these malachim and these neshamas to be revealed more. That's why it's powerful. He's saying that dibur, because it's on a lower darga, it's more concrete, it's more physical, it has the power to reveal for a person neshamas and malachim, and brings a person towards Ruach HaKodesh, saying things that are, more powerful intuitively, etc., etc., etc. That's why dibur is more powerful. But it doesn't mean that dibur is on a higher darga, though. Kol is on a higher darga. Kol is on a higher darga, not dibur. Not dibur. So, okay. So that concludes Oros Hataamim de Adam Kadmoin. Mazel Tov and a Yosher Koyach. Okay, let's take some questions. Hold on that note, I think it's important to explain that Sfarim do write why Chetzonius Hakli is on a higher level. Chetzonius Hakli is on a higher level because Chetzonius Hakli has to sort of become involved with the Oros HaMakifim. The Oros HaMakifim are chutz l'kli. It's outside of the kli. And because of that, the Chetzonius of the kli, has to be on a higher darga than Pnimius Hakli. Pnimius Hakli is not on a higher darga. That's why the Oros HaMakifim belong by Chetzonius Hakli. But anyway, okay, so good. We finished Oros Hataamim, the Adam Kadmain, a massive feat. The Oros of Mati V'Loi Mati is one of the highest dargas in Seder Ishtalshus, one of the most complicated in Yanim and Kisvei Arizal. And Be'ezras Hashem, we'll have smooth sailing for a while. And we should go Michael L'Chayil.